Well, the Ravens lost 33-30 to the Cleveland Browns. I think it was for the first time since 2000, something like that. Or they at home since 2000. Um, Josh McCown threw a record 400 or over 450 yards today. Uh, Set a record for Browns quarterbacks in their history. Um, it was just an all-around terrible game. I mean, I guess I'll start here and I'll go further into what I really want to talk about. Um, you look at that. I was listening to the radio driving around today after the game, and people were saying if Tucker doesn't miss that 51-yard field goal, they don't go. The Browns are going down there and kick their field goal and win, and they're saying, well, if the Ravens convert here and do this and do that, on offense, if Flacco does this, and pretty much trying not to put the blame on the defense. Let's face facts. The Ravens scored 30 points today, which is more than enough to beat the Browns. I mean, let's be real. A lot of people want to point the blame at Flacco. They want to point the blame at Mark Trestman for the calling out vanilla offense. They put up 30 points. Even with that missed field goal, they put up 30 points. When your defense gives up over 450 yards passing, that's just unacceptable. Even Josh McCown said after the game that he was told at the beginning of the week in practice that he was going to have to throw 50 times against that defense. Because they knew the Ravens, the rush defense is pretty solid, always has been. But anybody can throw the ball. And as we've seen, Josh McCown, who was nowhere near an elite quarterback, destroyed that Ravens secondary. I mean, absolutely destroyed him. There was a play where I think Gabriel for the Browns scored like a 50-yard bomb by Josh McCown. And it looked like Kyle Arrington was covering him. And he lets him go because he thinks Will Hill is going to, back him up at the safety position. But Will Hill is too busy looking at Josh McCown. And Gabriel just runs right past him. And McCown just launches. I mean, he's sitting there all day and is able to just throw that ball through. And who's the tight end? I can't remember the guy's name. He got over 150 yards. Made him look like Tony Gonzalez out there today. So, I mean, the linebackers can't cover the tight ends. They got Will Hill for the simple fact that he's supposed to be able to cover tight ends. He couldn't do that today. The defensive front seven, I think they got 4 sacks today, but it still wasn't enough pressure. They weren't enough to make him move around. While they did get sacks, they didn't put enough pressure as far as making him move in the pocket and making the forced errant throws. They weren't doing that. These cornerbacks were getting turned around by these wide receivers who were nowhere near elite receivers. They were getting turned around by them. They couldn't stop Duke Johnson out of the backfield. They just kept throwing screen passes to him out of the backfield. They couldn't stop him. If it wasn't for him stepping out of bounds that one play, he had like a 40-yard gain. It seems to me, Ravens fans, it seems like how Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid are like the third rail of American politics. Like things you just don't criticize and don't talk about. It's like the Ravens defense is the same way amongst Ravens fans. I've heard so many criticisms about Joe Flacco and Mark Trestman, the wide receivers, everything like that this on the radio and on TV this afternoon after the game, that no one wanted to face facts and say, this Ravens defense sucks. It is awful. It is terrible. I mean, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed are probably watching that game today. It's like, I thought we were leaving this in good hands. What happened? The legacy that we left there is gone. Like, it is nowhere near any kind of resemblance of what Ed Reed and Ray Lewis left. And that will get to my next point. But it's like, you look at this team, they could easily be 5-0. I mean, they were in every single game they've played this year. 5 games. They were in every game up to the fourth quarter. It's just that the Ravens defense can't hold on to the game. And they want to blame Flacco, say, Flacco, if he's an elite quarterback, he wins those games. Flacco has done enough. He scored 3 touchdowns today. He has done enough to win games for this team. But when your defense is giving up 30 points, 35 points a game, this Ravens offense isn't going to outscore anybody. Let's be real. We're not going to do that. But when your defense can't do that, can't stop anybody, what do you expect is going to happen? Flacco can't play defense. I mean, let's be real. And this all goes back to last season. The reason why the Ravens defense was able to get into the postseason last year is because Terrell Suggs and Elvis Dumerville and Pernell McPhee were able to provide pressure on the quarterback in the middle towards the end of the season. They were able to mask the problems on that secondary because they were able to get to the quarterback and cause them to make errant throws or cause them to throw a ball away or get sacked. That's what was the difference last year, that they had pass rushers. They had people that could disrupt in the front seven. They could disrupt the quarterback and make them, feel uncomfortable. They don't have that this year. Edwards Dumerville went out with a groin injury, but even with him in there, they haven't been able to get a pass rush. Terrell Suggs obviously tore his Achilles tendon. We don't know if he'll be able to play. He hasn't been as an explosive defensive player as he used to be a few years ago before his first Achilles tear. So who knows what he's going to be after this one. And they let Pernell McPhee go to the Dolphins. They're sticking it up right now too as well. But let's be real. They don't have any pass rushers. This guy's Darius Smith is a rookie. He's not doing anything. Courtney Upshaw is no Jared Johnson. Okay, he's no Pernell McPhee. He's good when he has other decent guys around him, but he's no pass rusher, and he can't cover anybody. He's good at stopping the run and setting the edge and doing that stuff. But even Jared Johnson was at least able to cover some tight ends and cover the flat and things like that. I mean, Courtney Upshaw can't even do that. Okay, he's not doing that at all. And people, C.J. Mosley is sitting out there by himself. He doesn't have any help out there. I mean, Darryl Smith is he's past his prime, way past his prime. He can't cover anybody. And C.J. is trying to do it all in the middle of the field. He can't. C.J. is the only Pro Bowl guy they have right now on that Ravens defense. That's it. It's just him. They signed Kyle Arrington, but he's a glorified nickelback. He's not going to really cover. She's not a shutdown type corner. They really signed Kyle Arrington just to kind of fill some space because they could afford him. They have the dead money in Ray Rice. They have the dead money in Haloti Ngata's contract. They have the dead money in Dennis Pitta, who's just sitting there at this point, collecting a paycheck. The Ravens at this point have to believe that he is not going to come back and be, any kind of help to this Ravens offense. It's not even an offensive problem at this point. It's the defense. They need as much defensive help they can get, and they're not going to find it. They're not going to sign anybody and trade for any picks or anything like that that's going to be able to fix this Ravens defense. It's just not going to happen. But that just gets to my next point. When you look at, I've been watching the U documentaries for ESPN 30 for 30. It's on Netflix. I saw the U and then I saw the U Part 2. And I was looking, they were looking at, when they started the University of Miami football program and how they stunk it up. They were considering at some point getting rid of it and everything like that. And until they brought, I can't remember the guy's name, Bo Schlemberger, I think it's Schlemberger or whatever. He was the first really head coach at University of Miami that got the program to get turned around. And what I noticed for the U as a football program, college-wise, was that the reason why they stunk it up so bad is because they lacked attitude. The University of Miami was like a private school pretty much, and they were so against, recruiting guys from, the rough part of the neighborhood in Miami, guys who grew up in the ghetto and things like that. They didn't want to recruit those guys because they want to have an upstanding football program, and it showed. They just stunk it up on the field. And when Bo Schlemberger came in, and I'm sorry, I don't remember his first name, but I think it's Schlemberger. People might correct me if I'm wrong, but when he came in, he fixed the program by saying, no, we're going out and we're going to fix. This is Gadget, by the way. He's looking for attention. But anyway, when he came in, he said, look, we're going to start recruiting these guys, for this football program. And they started bringing them in. And they were and people in the program who were boosters and things I can't believe you're recruiting these type of guys, these attitude type guys. They're going to bring such a bad mark to the team and to the the program. And he's like, I need football players. I need football players with attitude. That's how we're going to win. And when they recruited those guys like a Michael Irvin and Bo Blades and those guys, the Blades brothers, those guys, when they recruited those guys, I mean, they changed it all around. They would talk trash. They went out there, they would hit guys in the mouth, and they wouldn't score touchdowns. They brought a flair with them. They brought attitude with them. And you saw it again in the U Part 2 with Ed Reed and Willis McGahee and who's the tight end? Jeremy Shockey and Ken Dorsey was the quarterback. I mean, they had the fatigue game. Even though they lost, it was a national championship game against Penn State. They came in off the airplane in Army fatigues because that's the kind of attitude they had. They got in bar fights, with the rival team when they were in town, when they were playing a bowl game. They got in fights. They had attitude. They went out in the field every Saturday saying, we're going to come out here and we're going to beat the crap out of you. We don't care who you are. You're in our way, and we're going to take you out. When Ozzie Newsome became the GM of the Baltimore Ravens back in '96, and he drafted Ray Lewis, he knew what he was doing. Okay? Ray Lewis was part of that gang, part of those guys. University of Miami crew, they played with that kind of attitude. Ed Reed, Willis McGahee, when they signed him, the free agent. They brought plenty of Miami guys here to bring that attitude to the Ravens franchise. Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, preached a certain kind of football. When you look at the videos on YouTube of Ray Lewis, and he's sitting there at every defensive, play, whether they stopped him or not, he's in these guys' faces. He's talking to them. He's telling guys, don't do this, don't do that. He's telling me, he's pumping them up. He's on the field. He's talking trash. He's hitting guys as hard as he can. Ed Reed's going there making plays. He's hitting guys as well. They had that attitude, to dominate. It wasn't like, let's just win the game. Let's just get out here with a win. They had attitude, let's go out here and we're going to dominate. That's what we're going to do. We're going to dominate this team. Okay, we're going to leave here knowing our names and how bad we beat them. They're going to have a bitter taste in their mouths every time they speak our name. Every single time. But you can see with the Ravens this year, since Ray Lewis and Ed Reed have gone, and now Suggs is hurt, they don't have that anymore. That's gone. Okay? And this is what I'm going to get to my point now. I think blame really falls on. In my honest opinion, the blame for all of this has to fall on Harbaugh. And when the Ravens won the Super Bowl in 2012, during that season, as all Ravens fans remember, there was a mutiny by the players. It was, as far as we know, it was Ed Reed, it was Bernard Pollard, and Anquan Bolden, and I think a few other guys. But those are the three prominent guys that got it started. They pretty much had a meeting with Harbaugh. These few guys had a meeting with Harbaugh because they didn't like the way the team was going. They saw it going down the path where it's like, look, we're in a situation now. We got to win our next 5, or else we're not in the playoffs. And they just weren't feeling it. And they sat down with Harbaugh and pretty much said, look, man, you better get your act together, okay, handling this team, because we don't feel like you have a grasp of what's going on with this unit, with this team out here. We don't feel like you have it right now, okay. And then eventually the Ravens got together. They went on a run. Ray Lewis announced his retirement. Ravens won a Super Bowl. But since then, he got rid of Bolden, he got rid of Pollard, and he let Ed Reed go. There's a reason behind that. Harbaugh, as I think, has shown now that he lived off the success of Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. Ed Reed and Ray Lewis kept that defense together. They had some holes while they were playing, while Ed Reed and Ray Lewis were still there. But because of those guys who are leaders on the field, they were able to keep those guys, afloat and keep them like, all we got to do is this. And they were able to mask a few things and get guys to adjust and put this guy here and this guy there to mask certain things. That way they wouldn't get burnt every single time. But now those leaders are gone. You got a lot of young guys now on this defense where there's no leadership. Let's face it, Will Hill's not going to do it. He's not a leader type guy. You can see that. Kendrick Lewis is, he's a great run stopper, but he's not great in coverage. We've seen that already. Jimmy Smith, he stays there on the side on the corner of his side of the field, and that's pretty much it. CJ's too young. He's only a second year in the league. Give him at least another 3 years before he can start becoming a full-fledged leader on this team. Dumerville was never that type of guy, even in Denver. Only other guy you had left was Suggs, but he was mostly the jokester type guy. So Harbaugh has built the team the way he wants it to be at this point. And a lot of people want to blame Ozzie Newsome, saying like, look, Ozzie's missed on a few guys. Like, he's missed on Terrence Cody, he's missed on Sergio Kendall, Matt Elam. Even I think Terrence Brooks, we barely saw him out there. He's supposed to replace Ed Reed, but he missed on him. But let's be real. Harbaugh also has a say. It's not like Ozzy's picking just because for the sake of picking. Harbaugh is very much involved in picking the players that he wants on his team. And people need to realize that a makeup of a football team, a baseball team, or whatever embodies the character of the coach or the manager. It does. They embody what the manager exudes, his aura or whatever. When Rex Ryan was a defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, you could see that. Rex Ryan was a player-type guy. He would fight for his guys. But he was a fiery coach. And you can see that with the Buffalo Bills. They were down today, and they ended up winning that game, a close game. They still won. Okay? He's a fiery guy. He's going to keep his guys involved. And we saw that, Jack Del Rio, Hugh Jackson, Marvin Lewis, the list goes on. Of all these coordinators that have come through Baltimore, the defense, that have led this team with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Chris McAllister and Dwayne Starks, who was also a Miami guy. The attitude that they had on that team was palpable. You could feel it when you walked on that field. If you were on the opposing offense, like, oh man, we got to deal with these guys this Sunday. You just don't feel that with the Ravens. And a lot of people are saying, what about Flacco? He's too Joe Cool. He's not animated enough. And that's not Flacco's fault. That's the guy. That's who he is. He's not going to change that. But at the same time, like I said, the team reflects the attitude of the head coach. Every organization in sports, you can see that. The team represents the attitude of the head coach. Harbaugh did not want tough guys. He did not want attitude guys on his team. Anybody that was going to check him, anybody that was going to listen to him or challenge the status quo of that team, or step to him if they felt something was wrong. Harbaugh wants full control of that team and everybody to follow his lead. Okay, like I said, he lived off the success of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed because he wasn't going to tell them to go. Okay, it wasn't until Ed Reed and Ray Lewis's play started slipping that he was like, all right, I have enough ammunition to get these guys out of here. Okay, and then Bolden was due some money. They didn't want to pay him, but that was due to Harbaugh. Harbaugh could have said, look, we want to keep Bolden and do something to keep him here. They could have done that easily. But they had attitude guys before Harbaugh got here. They got rid of all the attitude guys. You can see that now. There's no attitude on this team on either side. Steve Smith is hurt. Ribs are gone. Ribs are hurt. But he's just one guy. I don't care how much the league changes and everything like that. At the end of the day, I know it's becoming a pass-heavy league. At the end of the day, offense wins you games. Defense wins you championships. That Ravens defense with Ray Lewis and everyone won 2 Super Bowls. They could have won more had that offense over the last 10 years had been just okay. They were terrible for years. If they had just been okay, the Ravens probably won 3 or 4 championships with that defense. Defense wins championships. At the end of the day, attitude wins championships. I put full blame on this on Harbaugh. People may say Ozzie Newsome is slipping and everything like that, but Ozzie is only doing what Harbaugh wants. The GM, as much, even though he seems like he may sit over the head coach has to pick his team. And then Ozzie's like, okay, I have these guys on my board. Who do you want? And he has his coordinators in there, and Dean Pease and Mark Trestman and all those guys. And like, who do you guys want? Who do you think will fit well with your offense and your scheme? Ozzie's just not picking guys and like, here, I picked them, you play with them. It doesn't work like that. The head coach and his assistant guys are in there as well, picking players to be on this unit on both sides of the ball. Okay. When he selected Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, let's face facts. I mean, Brian Billick, the only guy he wanted was Kyle Bowler. That's the only thing he was worried about. He wasn't He wasn't a defensive guy. He was an offensive guy from Minnesota. And even when Harbaugh was signed, I wasn't a fan. He's a special teams guy, and a lot of Ravens fans would say but he coaches everybody. He's a special teams guy. He coaches everybody. He doesn't know any kind of scheme on offense or defense. Nothing like that. And you can just tell. I said after that 2012 season, when he got rid of those guys because they were attitude guys like Bernard Pollard. When he hit Stephen Ridley, hit that power button move on him and shut his whole body down. That was an attitude hit. You don't see the Ravens defense hitting guys anymore like they used to. I understand the rules have changed and you can't hit guys a certain way, but you still can hit within the rules. Ray Lewis did it for years. The rules changed from 96 to 2013. Ray Lewis, the rules had changed many times, and he was still able to lay hits on guys. When he hit that hit on Dustin Keller, I think in 2011, and they were playing the Jets over the middle, that's an attitude hit. There's not that anymore. Ed Reed used to do it all the time. Attitude. There's no attitude in this team. I think it starts with John Harbaugh. Now that this team is 1-4, and Ozzie Newsome made some deals that he could try to make, based on what the cap he has, to try to make this team look better. I know injuries play a big part of it, but let's face facts. I mean, if Suggs was out there, would there be much of a difference in that secondary? I don't think so. Even with Steve Smith out, it's his last season. He's not going to be there next year. Bashar Perriman was already out. It wasn't going to change. And the offense, I said, it was still putting up 30 points. They've done well the last 5 weeks, the offense. They've done okay. It's the defense that's the problem. And it's lacking attitude. And I think it starts with Harbaugh. I think he has to go. I said it. There. I've said it right now. I don't know if this may be the fan in me and everything. This may be whatever, but I think Harbaugh has to go. I think Steve Bisciotti made a very bold statement in the beginning of the season, said that he's sick and tired of this team going 9-7 and barely making it into the playoffs. Just barely scraping into the playoffs. He wants his team to go to that next level, to get to 12-4 or 13-3, stuff like that. Just dominating, getting the Ravens home fans a chance to see at least 2 playoff games in M&T Bank Stadium. It's a shame that we have some of the best rated fans in NFL, but yet they don't get any home playoff games. None. Patriot fans get them all the time. Packer fans get them all the time. There's no attitude. There's no will to win here. I hated the fact that when Harbaugh said in the interview at the end of the game, it was like, well, that was a winnable game. We should have won. I just feel like the attitude with this team is let's try not to lose this game instead of let's go out there and kick butt. Let's go out there and just dominate these fools. I don't care who's on the field, what color they're wearing, or what logo they are. They're in our way. Let's beat the crap out of them and do it early. And you saw it in the beginning of the game when Danny Shelton ran right through the offensive line. There's no push. There's no push from the offensive line. There's no push from the defensive line. There's just no fire with this team. When Ray Lewis would come out and do his dance, I know a lot of people thought it was corny, but when he did his dance, Ravens players knew he was fired up for that game. He was ready to go. Ray Lewis let you know he was ready to go, and he let everybody know. He didn't keep it to himself. If you were messing up, he didn't care if you were offense or defense. If you were messing up, he let you know. But now that's gone. That era's over, and we can see that era's over. A new era in Ravens football will begin next season. I guarantee you that. Steve Bisciotti is not as hands-off as everybody thinks he is. Steve Bisciotti is not going to sit there for that long and be like, okay, I'm going to give you another year to make this work. No. I'm pretty sure Steve Bisciotti looked around. He was a minor owner when Art Modell was still alive and watched those teams. He can see the difference now between with Ray Lewis gone and Ed Reed gone, that the attitude is not with this team anymore. That no one's afraid of this Ravens defense. The Ravens have prided themselves on attitude for the last 20 years, and it's not there anymore. And it has to start somewhere. I think it starts with the head coach. I said this team embodies the guy who leads them on the field. Okay. And people can say it's Joe Flacco. It's John Harbaugh. This is John Harbaugh's team. He has made it this team's team based on the guys he's drafted and the guys, the free agents that they've signed. Okay, he wants no attitude guys on this team. Nobody's going to challenge him. No one's going to start anything. No one's going to bring any, heat against him. He wants it to be his team. And it's flopping in front of his face. But that's my rant. And if you guys have any comments, or please, leave them in the comments box and whatever. And maybe I do a video next week. I don't know. We'll see. But if anything big comes up, I'll discuss it. So, all right. I will see you guys maybe next week. All right. Peace.